Good morning, evening, night, people of planet Earth, how are you doing? My name's Wurdemgar and I'm bringing you a bit of a different tutorial today. I'm gonna show you how to make an Instagram filter just like the one you're seeing on your screen, but with your own Minecraft head. I've decided to divide this video into two parts. The first one will show you how to use Blender to make the 3D model for the head, and the second one, which I'll release tomorrow, will show you how to actually make the Instagram filter using this 3D model. I think I've made the tutorial pretty easy to follow, and I'm really curious. I really want to know how long it takes you to make the head on this video. I genuinely want to know. Let me know how long it takes you if you end up following the tutorial down in the comments. Now let's begin with the first part. Okay, we'll begin with the Blender part. I recommend you use a mouse for this. If you're on a laptop, I really encourage you to get a mouse, and I'll explain why in a second. This is the 3D environment. And you're not gonna be moving or doing anything complicated here, unless you want to sort of customize the look of your character. But if you want to move around this environment, you're going to need to use the middle button of your mouse. If you want to go closer to an object, you want to scroll the wheel of your mouse, either up or down. If you want to see around, rotate around the scene, you have to click with the middle mouse button and pan around. And if you don't want to rotate, but you want to move where you're looking at, you want to pan on this view, you have to hold shift, and with the middle mouse button pressed, you're going to have this effect. You'll be seeing on the down left part of my screen that there's this green mouse, and this shows basically every single key that I press. In case I forget to mention what I'm pressing, you can see it there, and that will help you follow along. If you want to know how to enable this, there's a link in the description for the video used to do this. It was a great tutorial. I really encourage you to go there if you want to learn how to do this. Now, we're going to begin with the material for our head. We're going to go to this shading tab. You're going to click here, and here, this bottom panel is what we're going to use to create the material. We have a white cube here, but we need to make it look as if it were our Minecraft head. What you're going to do is add some nodes. This thing can get a bit complicated, but we're not gonna get into anything really complicated. You're gonna see. If you want to enlarge this window, you can hit Ctrl and the spacebar, and that's gonna bring the window into full screen mode. And if you want to get out, just press it again, in, out. So I'm gonna do this just for the sake of the tutorial. You don't need to enlarge this necessarily. You're gonna hit Shift A on your keyboard and hit search. Inside search, I want you to type image. And the only node that is left here is image texture. You're gonna click it and click again just to leave it there. You're gonna connect this color dot with the base color of the next of this principal BSDF node. You're gonna hit open. Here you have a choice to make. You can either use your own skin already, or you can use the skin reference I left in the description. I'm gonna be using this reference just for people who want to follow along the tutorial like step by step. They can have some sort of visual guide that's similar for everybody. So you're gonna select your skin and hit open image. By the way, if you don't see your skin, you might be in this list mode. If you hit here, this button will take you to the thumbnail mode, and that will show you the images. You're gonna open the image, and now you're gonna see something very interesting. If we go here, you'll see that the image doesn't look good at all. That's because the program is trying to compensate for the abrupt change of colors that there's in the skin, and there's a way around this. So the thing you want to change here is where it says linear. You're gonna change this to closest. This is the interpolation mode, and closest, it's gonna make it so that the color doesn't try to smooth the transitions. Then what you want to do is, if you see this material has some sort of shine, and I don't really like that, so what we're gonna do to get rid of it is take this specular section and take it all the way down. That way we have solid colors and our skin still needs some fixing. To do the final fixing, we're gonna go to here, the UV editing tab. You're gonna click here, and here I need you to pay a lot of attention. What you're seeing right here is called edit mode. This allows you to move individual vertices, edges, or faces. We're not gonna modify the model just yet, and some of you might not even modify it. what we want to do in this part is make it so that every single face has the correct texture. You're gonna see that we no longer see the texture that we just applied. To fix this, we're gonna hit the letter C, the last letter of the alphabet. Sorry for my pronunciation. Hold C, drag down to where it says Material Preview, and stop holding C. This is gonna show us the material we just created. Now, you want to make sure that you have every single vertex selected. To do that, in case you deselect it and it looks like this, you just hit A, and that's gonna highlight every single vertex. Now I want you to hit U on your keyboard and hit Mark Sim right here at the bottom. Now I want you to hit U again, and this time you'll click on Unwrapped, the first option. Once you click on Unwrap, there will be a little panel here. You're gonna click it, and you want to see that the last value is 0.001. This is the only value that matters. Now we're gonna move to this panel on the left. I want to show you something. If we select everything with A, and we try to scale this thing down, you're gonna see that it scales as a whole. And we don't need that. So we're gonna change the origin point of this scaling. You're gonna hit the point on your keyboard. The one that's close to the L, not the one that's on the numpad. We're gonna do the same thing with the C. You're gonna hold it, drag it down, and stop holding it. Now if we hit S to scale, you'll see that every single face will be scaled towards its center. You're not gonna click here, you're going to write on your keyboard 0.375 and hit enter. Now our faces are on the right scale of our texture, but they're not at the right point. So what I need you to do now is come back here to the panel on the right and click up here where it says face select. You're gonna click here and we're gonna start moving around face by face. If you followed every single step as I explained it, you should be seeing exactly the same as me. If you don't, you have to make sure that the orientation of your scene is right. There are two ways to do this. The first one, the manual one, is going to be using your middle mouse button to move around, to rotate around, and see that the axes up here are in the same direction. The C is going up, the X is going to the right, and the Y is going backwards. The second method is clicking one on your numpad if you have one, and that will take you directly to the front face. If you don't have a numpad, you'll have to do it manually. Now that we have our front face selected, we'll go back to the panel on the left. Here I want you to check something. This thing right here on the corner is called the 2D cursor. You want to make sure that the cursor is there, and to do that you're going to hit N on your keyboard, go down to View, and here you'll need to see that the 2D cursor is at X0 and Y0. Once it's there, you want to select every single vertex of this face, hit Shift and S, and holding Shift and S, you're going to drag here where it says selected to cursor offset. You're gonna stop holding Shift and S, and you're gonna see that this face comes here. You have to make sure that you used offset, because if you just select selected to cursor, all the points are gonna go to the same point. So you want to make sure that you have a square here. You're gonna hit G to move this thing around and hit Ctrl for it to snap to the pixels on the image. You want to take it to where it says F from front, and you'll see that the orientation on the right is not correct. To correct for this, you're going to hit R on the left panel, R -90, and that's gonna fix it. We're gonna repeat the same process for all the rest of the faces. You're gonna select the face, hit A, Shift S, select it to cursor, D, holding Ctrl, you're gonna take it to the corresponding place, and some of the faces you'll have to rotate. This one you'll have to rotate again, -90 degrees, R -90 for that. The back one, I'm pretty sure that you don't have to rotate it, you just have to move it around. We're gonna take it here. The right one, I think it's exactly the same. Yes. The top one, you're gonna have to rotate it by 180 degrees. So you're gonna take it where it says T, and you have to make sure that when you're reading the F correctly, the T is also readable. So you have to rotate it 180 on the left panel, because if you do it on the right panel, this is going to happen. Finally, the bottom face is gonna be a bit different, and that's just because of the way Minecraft makes the skin textures. You're gonna repeat the process, and you're gonna notice something here. If we take this to the happy face here, the correct texture needs to be rotated around like this. We're gonna rotate it again 180 degrees, and I want you to see something. Here on the F, we have a black square on the upper left corner and a white square on the upper right. Same goes for the L, for the V, for the R, and for the T. But here on the happy face, it's flipped around. And that's not what we want. This is the reference we're gonna be using, you have to remember. Left is black, right is white. To fix this, you're gonna do something a bit different. You're gonna go back to the UV editing tab, you're gonna hit A, S for scale, X for scaling only on the horizontal plane, and you're gonna enter -1 and hit enter on your keyboard. This is gonna flip around the texture, and that's gonna make it so that the left is black and the right is white. Now, we have finished our texture, and some of your skins might have a second layer. So to do that, what I want you to do is, first of all, exit edit mode, you hit tab, and you're gonna see these red outlines disappear. Also, here it says object mode instead of edit mode. You have to make sure of that. You're gonna hit Shift D on your keyboard. This is gonna duplicate your cube. You're gonna hit X and 5. This is gonna move the new cube 5 units on the x-axis. Now, what I want you to do is hit Tab to enter edit mode again, hit A to select everything, go to the panel on the left, hit G, Control, and take this all the way to the right. Now you're gonna see that the colors are the same and the black and white corners are in exactly the same places. Now you're gonna notice that this is supposed to be transparent. Here on my texture, this is transparent, but the way the program is processing it right now, it's not showing, it's not gonna show, and we're gonna fix that in the next program we're gonna use. Now we have to return this to where it was before and make it a bit bigger. I suggest around a 1.1 scale. You're gonna hit S, 1.1, hit enter, then G, X, -5, and that's gonna return it to where it was before. And it's gonna be just a little bit bigger. Now we're gonna go back to the shading tab once more, just to change the texture. Now this time we're gonna use our own skin. Here you can see that my outer layer is completely black. This is gonna be transparent, and that's because my skin doesn't have a second layer. Here you can see that that's how my head looks. And now I'm gonna show you with a different texture I have here. This is Grian's head. He does have an outer layer, and here is his hair, and here's the face underneath, which looks a bit weird, by the way. This is basically everything you're gonna do, unless you want to start like modifying a bit the cube. For those of you that don't want to modify the cube, you're gonna hit File, Export, Waypoint OBJ. You're gonna select a folder where you're gonna save this, and I'm gonna save this as Grian H for Grian head. This is going to both export the model and the material. Now, for those of you that do want to modify the head, I'm gonna delete this for now. I'm gonna go back to shading and change this texture to my own skin. You're gonna see that this is my head, and I want to add some depth to it, especially on the ears. What you wanna do for this is hit Tab to enter edit mode, select everything by hitting A on your keyboard, right click and click Subdivide. Here on this tab that appears on the bottom, you're gonna change the number of cuts to 7. This is gonna make it so that every single pixel on the skin is now an individual face. You're gonna select every single face you want to move around. In my case, it's gonna be the inner part and the outer part of my ears on both sides. There's a way to do both ears at the same time, or you can do one by one. If you wanna do one by one, you're gonna hit E on your keyboard, and this is going to extrude those faces. I'm gonna be using numbers because I want this to be a bit more precise, so I'm gonna hit 0.1 on my keyboard, and I'm gonna do exactly the same on the other side. By the way, for selecting multiple faces, you're just gonna hit Shift on your keyboard, hold Shift, and click all the faces you want to select. I'm gonna do the same, E 0.1. Now, if you want to do both sides at the same time, you're gonna select all the faces you want to extrude. In my case, it's gonna be the blue part of my ears, on this side and on this side, and I'm going to extrude both at the same time. If I do the same as I did before, I just hit E, you're gonna see that this is not going to work. So how are we gonna fix this? You're gonna hit Alt and E, and here you're gonna select Extrude Faces along normals. This way both sides are extruding along the normals of the faces. The normals are basically the perpendicular direction to a face, and I'm gonna hit again 0.1. And that's gonna give me this depth on my ear. Now you're gonna see that there's this weird texture here, and that's because of the UV texture. If I hit this face and I find it here, you'll see that it's right between both colors. To fix this, what you want to do is select every single face that's changed its color scale it down as much as you can and take it to a color where you think it's gonna look right. So I'm gonna start moving this around to the blue color, and this is a bit of a tedious part because you don't necessarily have like plain colors like me. You'll have to see what looks best for your skin, and sometimes you'll have to do this face by face depending on where the normals are. For instance, since all of this is blue, I can do all these faces together. Same with these three right here. I'm gonna do the same. And basically you're just gonna fix the colors on the faces that have changed color in your model. I'm gonna skip through this process and show you the final result. Now that I've finished, I can export this. Now I'm gonna go back to the layout tab, and here you'll see that my model's now complete. I'm gonna hit File, Export, Wavefront OBJ, and now this one I'm gonna call Weirdy Head, because that's my name, Weirdy H. That's been everything for this first video. Again, I'll be releasing tomorrow the second part, which is how to make the proper Instagram filter using Spark AR. And if this video has already been up for a couple of days, you'll see it at the end of this video. If you've reached this point of the video, I'm gonna assume you like it, so please give it a thumbs up if you did, and maybe consider subscribing. I'll leave that up to you. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Werdinger, and I'll see you again on a different video. Goodbye. This is the reference we're gonna be using. You have to remember. Left is black, white is... You have to remember. Left is black, white. You have to remember. Left is black, right is white. You have to remember. Left is black, right is white.